this is our trail guide certification for the Christian Hall for dual credit programs offered in partnership with the Christian Hall. And just as a bit of context, our motif for our training series is adventuring and journeying together with Christ, pursuing our highest potential. And so this certification series follows the core Christian Hall training that local and regional operators go through. And then we offer specific certifications related to certain types of programs. And you'll see at the end of this presentation what some of those different programs are. And it's just for skills and knowledge that are particular to specific programs that aren't necessarily as relevant to other types of programs within the Christian Hall environment. So this certification is called the Adventurer Certification for dual credit programs. And let's get going. Just as a recap and perhaps new information for anyone who may not have seen this, is the Christian Hall mission and vision. Our vision is that the body of Christ would be the leader in changing the world through the stewardship of the Christian intellectual tradition and the whole person formation of disciples of Jesus. We want to see a renewal of the church spiritually and intellectually. We want to see the disciples of Christ equipped and living out their whole calling before God in their daily walk and in their professions. We do that by collaborating with the church and evangelical academic institutions to increase the access to and impact of high quality Christ-centered education. So whether that's through pricing agreements or whether that's through our variety of activities, complementary activities such as tutoring, mentoring, seminars, and more, we're always working towards those ends in our programming. And as you see here on the right-hand side, the Christian Hall logo, the shield communicating strength in Christ with the Kairos symbol, one of the most ancient symbols of Christianity, in the center of the shield there, representing Christ himself, and then the CH for Christian Halls. And on the banner down below, post tenebras lux, meaning after the darkness comes the light. And so we believe not only in Christ have we been rescued from the darkness and brought into the light, but also we also take that to mean that through this process, through this journey that a student and even the broader members of the Christian Hall go through, this formational process, that it is an illuminating process as well, a process of self-discovery, a process of discovery of Christ and discovery of the world and different academic disciplines. And so it does have a double meaning for us at the Christian Hall. So about dual credit. Dual credit or dual enrollment, some universities call it dual enrollment. Here in the Christian Hall context, we call it dual credit. So what is it? Just to kind of cover some of the basics, first we want to say it is a Christ-centered education from respectable evangelical universities. We at the Christian Halls, we pursue partnerships with universities who are aligned with our vision and mission, who share our values, our spiritual values, our biblical grounding. And so that's what students and local partners receive through the dual credit program. Specifically, it is delivery of undergraduate courses for high school students. And it's an opportunity for them to broaden their horizons by studying new disciplines that maybe they don't have access to through their traditional high school offerings, or by exploring areas that they may want to try to study, or they might have an interest in studying at the university level. And it's a way for them to discover new things before they really have to select a major and step into kind of the stream of requirements there. It's an opportunity for a student to stand out from the crowd. And we think that this is important because admissions are increasingly competitive, and there are always different ways that students are seeking to distinguish themselves from others in the admissions process for colleges. And dual credit is one of those ways. In fact, we think it's a particularly valuable way because it's an opportunity for a student to demonstrate their own capacity, their ability to succeed in college level courses. And of course, one of the most publicized benefits of the dual credit program, or aspects of the program, is that students earn college credit towards an undergraduate degree without having to take extra exams, as opposed to other types of programs that may be out there. And so, once a student completes the course, the grade that they got in that course is the grade that shows up on their transcript with that university, for better or for worse. So we do encourage our local operators and our local partners to remind the students that this is serious, that this does go on their transcript, and it can be quite valuable to them if they do well. The courses can be delivered online or in class, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today as far as delivery options. Through the dual credit program and in our partnerships with various institutions, we're able to offer member rates as well as different services that can support students. So that's an added benefit, and a new developmental challenge. So many times we're looking for dual credit are students who are already excelling in their studies. Maybe they're looking for new subject matters to study, but maybe they're looking for a next level challenge in their studies. And so we think that dual credit provides that opportunity. It complements what schools and homeschool programs are already doing. And so we want you as local operators to really understand what dual credit offers, and how some of these key points are important to families and students. So to kind of elaborate a little bit further on who's the ideal student, dual credit can serve students as early as 9th grade. So technically any high school student can qualify in most cases if they satisfy the academic requirement of having a minimum 3.0 GPA. However, the ideal student is a junior or senior, is already kind of gearing up towards their college experience. They're more mature, they're more academically prepared typically. So although we can admit 9th graders and 10th graders, we strongly recommend, well, the younger the student, the earlier they are academic journey, the more rigorously we will evaluate the student to determine whether they're really a good fit for the dual credit program. So, whereas we might take a junior who's earning a 3.0, GPA pretty steadily, that a junior may pass muster, but a sophomore or a freshman who's got a 3.0 is kind of right on the line. We may advise them to wait another year or so, because really we want to see them succeed. We want to set them up to succeed. And so we don't want them to get into the program where they're paying a little bit extra to take college courses, and then they get frustrated or they get discouraged because they're not prepared for that. And we, part of our job in the admissions process and in the screening process at the local level is to just make sure that we're we're finding the right students who can take advantage of this program. And that's, part of that is discerning whether they're ready for a challenge and whether they're intellectually curious. Are they, have they met their limit in terms of what they're already studying, through the normal offerings at the local school? Or does it appear that this student has the ability to take on college level studies? And so that comes, with some of that comes through in the student's own personal essay, and that also comes through in the recommendations, the letters of recommendation that come as part of their application. And so we really rely on those perspectives to get, a well-rounded picture of that student beyond just what their transcript may reveal. All right, so who are some of the academic partners? Currently, actively, we have LeTourneau University and King's College in New York. We have a partnership coming online soon, and potentially multiple partnerships coming on soon in the dual credit program. The Christian Hall has more academic partnerships than this, but these are currently the institutions that permit us to operate with the dual credit program. LeTourneau University is very strong in math and science and engineering and others, primarily in the science related and entrepreneurship as well. It is, interestingly, for a polytechnic university, is now beginning to develop a classical studies and great books program, which is a fascinating development that we're excited about because we have relationships with classical schools and classical programs. So that's a new development where LeTourneau is pursuing kind of a well-rounded academic offering in that sense. LeTourneau offers a scholarship, a generous scholarship of $17,000 per year for students who complete dual credit courses through them. And so that is certainly a benefit. The student, if they are able to earn a higher scholarship than that, then they don't have to take that scholarship, but it is there for them if they need it. So that is a wonderful benefit. King's College is another excellent institution working with us through the dual credit program, very strong in humanities, politics, philosophy, economics, finance, journalism, based in New York City, right there on Wall Street. They have a near famous 2-year core that we just worked with them recently to get a 2-year associate's degree in politics, philosophy, and economics approved, so that students can now, through the Christian Hall, can now earn that associate's in PP&E. And most of that degree program is available already through dual credit. And so technically a student working diligently could come pretty close to earning that associate's degree by the time they leave high school. And as you see there on the screen, the current price points for LeTourneau and King's College: 100 per credit at LeTourneau and 200 per credit at King's College. Just as a reminder that most courses are 3 credits. So that would be, equivalent to $300 per credit at LeTourneau. The courses can range from 2 to 4 credits typically. Okay. Our partner schools work with, LeTourneau and King's College work with the standard semester formats, at least as far as the dual credit program is concerned, and admissions and registration processes, typical fall, spring, and summer terms. They're not exactly aligned. They have a slight difference in start dates for the semesters, as we'll see here in a minute. And Indiana Wesleyan, which is one of the schools that is just about to come online, it's shown there on the screen, they also work with fall and spring semesters, but they split their summer into 2 terms. So that creates kind of an extra opportunity for students if they want to do intensives during the summer. They can do a course in one term and do a course in the other term. For those who have already gone through our general Christian Hall training and seen a similar graphic, just as a reminder, the dual credit offering is by semester, but once a student gets into the undergraduate program, they will start to take courses by modules, and that will depend on their specific degree program. But so that may be why you see a bit of a difference here. Here is a program cycle graphic for the dual credit program. It is slightly different than what we have seen in the overall Christian Hall program cycle, but it's a little more simplified because the terms are, there's only admissions for each semester as opposed to modular admissions throughout the year. So you're really only running 2 or 3 admission cycles during the year, depending on locally if you plan to offer summer courses or not, but certainly for fall and spring. Generally, I'll comment on the, as we look at this, generally the recruitment of students should come about 4 to 6 months prior to the start of a term. So if we're talking, as you see there in spring, if you're a local operator and you're in January to March time period, the first half, the spring semester, you're really focused on recruitment for the summer and fall terms. So that's several months in advance, maybe initially for summer, depending on if you have local partners that are planning to offer summer courses. Not everybody does that. And then as you start to moving into the mid to latter part of the spring semester, then you're transitioning more into admissions, processing applications. You've already done your work recruiting, communicating the course schedules, and then you begin to process admissions applications, and then we start to submit the registrations for summer courses, and we can start to do early registration for fall courses. And I'll talk a little bit here in a little bit about the difference between early registration and regular period registration. So then you move into the summertime, and the cycle continues, the admissions cycle continues for the fall for a bit longer, and those deadlines are different for each school. We'll see that here in a second. And then you finalize registrations for the fall, and we always recommend that the summertime is a good time because there is typically lower enrollment. It's a good time to do strategic planning. So for those of you who are school administrators, that may be standard issue, but for those who are new Christian Hall operators and getting into the academic program cycle, it is a good time. That and the Christmas break are often times that we take within the Christian Hall to run through mid-year evaluations and do some strategic planning. Then as we head into the fall with August, the first half of the fall, again, kind of the cycle repeats. You work on recruitment for schools and students for the spring courses and publishing the spring course offerings. And then you begin, as you move into the late fall, then you begin to process those applications and registration requests. Okay, any questions about that program cycle or about anything that we've covered so far?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. We'll keep moving on here. So to look at some specific dates, and these are, yes.
I do have some feedback about universities and courses offered. So whenever you think that's appropriate to kind of come in, just with some of that feedback. Maybe it'll be at the end, but I just didn't want to,
Okay.
I just didn't want to not have time for that.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. I'd love to discuss that. We'll definitely have time at the end to do that. So as we look at some of the important dates coming up for this year, and this is going to be similar for future years, you know, in terms of general dual credit offerings, but as you see here, we've got the summer term and the fall term for different partner schools. As I said, Indiana Wesleyan's not quite online yet. We're anticipating that coming, but King's College and LeTourneau, we have aligned registration periods, really more for our local operators' sake, even though the terms are staggered. LeTourneau, as you see, starts the semester, the summer term in mid-May, and it goes through, you know, mid-August. And then King's is a little bit more compressed, starting in the first week of June. But the difference here that I want to point out is that early registration means that with our partner schools, we have arranged for dedicated seats. So we've requested a package of seats reserved for the Christian Hall that up until that early registration deadline, no one else, not even current students at the university, can occupy those seats. And so we really encourage our local operators to try to meet that deadline, because then they have, as long as their student meets the requirements for the program, they have the utmost assurance that the student is going to be able to get into the course that they want. After that date, registration is still open until, as you see there, May 5th. But for those 3 weeks or so, other students, particularly the university's other students or any other students that the university admits, can begin to fill up those seats. And so we try to provide periodic updates, about weekly updates during that period of, okay, there are 3 more seats or there are 5 more seats available, you know, they're going away. But that's why you see there on the table a difference between early registration and final registration. And again, we really want to try to encourage our partners to, you know, if they think they're going to take courses in the summertime, to try to occupy the seats. Something else that we can do is, so let's say that you're working with a local school and the school doesn't quite yet know exactly how many students are going to register, but the school has a good idea that, oh, we're going to need 10 seats for this course. You know, we're still working on getting applications in and that kind of thing, but the school can tell us and can tell the local operator, okay, we need to save 10 seats, you know, by that early registration deadline. And so then we can still communicate to the university, okay, we're expecting to use these 10 seats. You know, they may have given us a package of 50 seats or something like that. And so we can go ahead and reserve those seats so that they're still blocked off until the May 5th deadline, while we're still working on applications. So that's, you know, that's a way that we can communicate to the universities our expectation, and it also helps the university plan, you know, their professor assignments and their scheduling of different course sections. And then here you see the fall deadlines a little bit later. Again, early registration, much earlier for King's College this time, and later for LeTourneau. And then final registration coming in August. LeTourneau's typically for dual credit is right on top of the start of the term. In fact, it's usually, I think usually about the Thursday, sometimes the Friday before the start of classes. It's very late, and it's not ideal. It's, you know, I would encourage y'all to try to get in applications as soon as possible, because you know, the time to process, if anything is missing, if a student tries to apply on August 18th, if anything is missing, there's very little chance that they're going to be able to get their letter recommendation in, or, you know, some missing document by the deadline. And so we hate for that kind of thing to happen. Also, if a student does apply and they let's say they apply on August 18th and they have everything, they have all their letters of recommendation, everything's in good shape, and then they get submitted to LeTourneau the next day, and they get their notification, everything happens real quickly. Great, they're admitted, but they're also just now going to get the syllabus either on the 19th or the 20th, depending on, you know, when that invitation goes out from the university. And that doesn't give the student a lot of time to prepare for the course, you know, maybe to purchase a textbook if it's needed, or to review the syllabus, or even, you know, oftentimes if they're a new student, to access the university platforms. And sometimes there are problems, you know, with the student's password or with their account. And so we, you know, for those reasons, we really try to encourage students, especially at LeTourneau, because the deadline is so close to the start of the term. We try to encourage students to really focus more on that early registration deadline, because it gives them a greater buffer, you know, before the start of the term to get prepared, and also just make sure that they really do have all of their ducks in a row with their application. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Now
Yeah,
I'm going.
Good, and it's real practical too, so I think we'll be good.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to just show y'all here. I'm going to try to show you and see if it will cooperate here. Can you see? Well, here we go. I just flipped back. Hold on. All right. Can you see my screen now? Can you see this table, this course table?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to go through and present. This is the summer term course offerings from King's and LeTourneau, and I'm not going to present, you know, all the different courses and everything. But what I want to do is show you how to read this and give you some tips. So first of all, you know, you see the university that's offering the course listed there, and then you see the number of credits, which is important for the student to understand that the price, you know,
Karen, I'm gonna interrupt. I'm seeing your slides and the training series up as the main slide. I'm not seeing.
Yeah, we're not seeing your PowerPoint.
Okay. Can you see the table of courses now?
No.
All right, let's try something else here. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So, so here on the left-hand side, you see the university that's offering the course, the code and the course name, etc. The number of credits is important because the student may have, you know, seen a brochure or seen the website or something that usually publishes the per credit price. So we want to make sure that, you know, the student understands, well, if it was $100 per credit for LeTourneau, then that's going to be 3 credits is $300. And we have the total, we publish the total cost over here. And so they can see that, but if they, we just want to make sure that they grasp the concept of cost per credit hour. Then this column here is important to pay attention to if there's any kind of a prerequisite or sometimes a co-requisite. Most of the time, if there's a course listed here, that's a prerequisite, with the exception of some of these, with the exception of sciences, oftentimes in LeTourneau, the math courses are co-requisites. And then again, here's the early registration dates and the final registration dates. So, you know, as you talk through this table with students or families, you know, it's important that they understand what is meant by these 2 different dates. And then we'll always show you the term. So this is, you know, when classes are actually going to be happening. the total cost. And then as we update the table, we will publish, how many seats are remaining for that course. So I just wanted to kind of quickly show y'all what the typical course listing will look like. And that is usually available on our website. And will be a good tool for you to become familiar with in talking through with students. And then again, I'm not gonna. Can you see the dual credit application on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna go through this in detail either, but I just wanted to show you, this is what the Christian Hall dual credit application looks like. A student will come to this site, christianhalls.classe365.com, etc., and they can fill out the form here, and it gives them, if they haven't already seen that course listing that we just showed you, it gives them the link for that if they need to. It advises them that they have to pay an application fee coming in, etc. All the basic information they have to fill out, and then they tell us what program, what courses and university they want to study from. It's important to note that they can take courses from all of our partner schools. They can take multiple courses. They can take one course from one school, another course from another school in the same term. However, we strongly advise, and this is mentioned on the application itself, if it is a student's first time in the dual credit program or taking any kind of AP or college level course, we strongly recommend that they only take one course to start with. Because again, we want our students to have, we want them to be set up for success. We recognize that this is a different level of study than most students have experienced, and so in future terms they can take 2 courses. Some students can even take 3 courses, but we strongly advise that a student starts off with just 1 course so that they can really get the hang of it before overwhelming themselves. Academic background is where they're going to attach their transcripts. They're going to upload those if they have those. If you're working with a homeschool family, they may not have a transcript. Sometimes they do, but in lieu of a transcript, we can accept a kind of a parent's report, a parent educator's report that details what the student has studied, what kinds of work they've done. Maybe they can attach, a research report that the student has done or something of that nature to give us a sense of their academic capability. Spiritual background is also where they'll attach a copy of their personal essay. And then they need to be prepared to have the contact information for 3 personal references. And again, we rely on those references to give us some understanding of the student's character and capability as they come into the program. Okay, so I'm not going to go through and fill out all this and show you how it's all done, but at least you're familiar with the general layout of the application and can hopefully walk students through. Can you see, are we back in the PowerPoint now, or do I need to adjust something?
Yeah, we're looking at important dates.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the fall courses, it's going to be a similar type of table. There's the offering is more extensive, so the summer offerings are more limited than the fall and spring. Also, you may have seen, if you've already seen the fall course listing, there are some courses that are only offered in the spring or only offered in the fall. And so you may notice that in that case, that course may be grayed out and may be shown as closed, or it may say something like spring only or something like that. So clearly that's not a course that's available for that given term, so for the fall in this case. But it is shown on the list there really so that students can plan. You know, for example, they would have physics, they could have physics 1 in the fall and then physics 2 in the spring. But if they don't know that physics 1 isn't offered in the spring and it's only offered in the fall, and that you have to take physics 1 before physics 2, etc. So that's one of the reasons why we keep those courses on the list, even though they're grayed out, just so that students can see, oh yeah, okay, that course is offered in a future term and it has these prerequisites and that kind of thing. Okay. So the admissions process. How does a student get admitted into dual credit? You know, the typical admission, it's very similar to admission into a college program, a college degree program. A little bit lighter on the evaluation of a student, but still very similar. And you know, as we recognize that we're looking for exceptional students, you know, we take the requirements seriously. So there's an application stage, an evaluation stage, and then the school evaluation or the school review. So at the Christian Hall, our responsibility is to do a pre-screening of all applicants before we send them on to the school, so that the school has high degree of confidence that the candidates we send them are already qualified for the program. And then if all goes well, then we proceed to the registration for the course. So to talk a little bit more in detail about each of these stages, the application, as we saw, requires a transcript or a parent attestation in the case of a homeschool student. It requires a personal essay, and that essay serves two purposes: for us to get to know the student better, but also for us to evaluate their capability. You know, so we encourage students to treat this seriously. It is not an SMS text or a Facebook post. It is intended to be an academic essay in which they are presenting themselves to a university, and so they should treat it as such. You know, if we see serious grammatical errors and, you know, and kind of lack of coherency in the writing, despite what the transcript may say, we may not be able to, you know, recommend that student for admission. And so we want to emphasize that point. Recommendations, we already covered that. Forms. So certain schools may require an additional form, and one example is LeTourneau University. So any student enrolling in a course with LeTourneau University has to fill out a policy, a terms and conditions form for LeTourneau that addresses FERPA requirements and parental access to student information. And so that the application indicates this, but it's important to point out that currently applies to LeTourneau only. There are no other forms required for King's College, but that it's possible that you know, as we bring other university partners on board, that they may have additional form requirements. On the application itself, the student is able to select the courses. So they actually do that. It's kind of a pre-registration, so they don't have to go through a subsequent registration phase unless for some reason a course got filled before their application was processed or something. Then we'll go back to them and see if another course may be acceptable to them. And then their application fee upon submitting the application. Local operators, Christian Hall operators, will do the document reviews to make sure that the student is adhering to the university guidelines. And they will do that within 365, where the application arrives. The operator or the school may want to conduct an interview, a screening interview with the students. And you know, this is informational as well as evaluative, and so that is that is up to you, how you want to handle that. It's not required by the schools or by the Christian halls, but it is something that some partners like to implement. And then once you've done the evaluation of the application, then you'll do the corresponding updates in the system. And I'm just going to show you, we cover the, I'm going to go into the Class E365 system here quickly and just show you what this looks like. And let's see here, we'll go. Just so you can see really the workflow for that you'll be dealing with regard to the applications. Oh, that's sorry, that's the fall. That's good. Let's get you another. Dual credit. Let's take this one. There we go. So we'll look at just here's the workflow that you'd be looking at. So if when an application comes in, there.
Since
what's that?
If you wouldn't mind, just because it would help me to wrap my brain around it, I noticed that the 3 other students were actually 3 students from our school. So if you mind to pull one of them up as the example, I think that would be helpful to me, if that's okay with Chris.
Sure, yeah. So here's so what I just want to show you is the process here. So when we receive an application, it's going to come in as pending, meaning it needs to be reviewed. And then once it's been reviewed, if there's anything missing or any question that needs to be addressed related to that application, it'll get moved to issue until that question has been resolved, if there's a missing document or what have you. If everything is, once everything is okay with the application, then the operator will move this application over to advanced and will forward it to the admissions staff at the university. And so this is our pre-screening stage here. And then once we've advanced the applicant to the university, then we wait for the university's formal approval. Once we get that, then we move the student to accepted. And then as in our more extensive training on 365 itself, we go into detail on this, but there's still the opportunity at this point, even though the student's been accepted into the program, we don't move them to enroll in the course until we've confirmed that the student actually intends to enroll in the course. So sometimes it's not so much the case with dual credit because there's not nearly as much fluctuation with student plans, but it applies more to undergraduate and graduate students who may be applying to multiple universities. And so even if they get accepted into one, they may not necessarily enroll there. So that's why that process is set up, but it still applies, and it's something to be mindful of even in the dual credit program. So we just confirm, okay, great, the student's been accepted, congratulations. Do you in fact intend to take this course? Yes, okay, then we move it to enroll. If they don't, for whatever reason, or if they were rejected by the university, then we would close the application, okay? So as I said, we have a more extensive training on the use of 365, but I just want to make sure that for the purposes of this training that we have kind of a refresher of what does that process look like internally. Okay. Any questions on that before we move forward? Okay. Just a brief note, the technologies related to the dual credit program are the student information system, that we just showed you, our internal system, Class 365. And then each university is going to have their own learning management system. You know, their course delivery system where the lectures are taking place and discussion groups related to that course. And so in this case, LeTourneau uses Canvas and King's College uses Schoology. Students will receive, once they're admitted to the program, they will receive their user accounts for these. And as a local operator, it's usually helpful to check back in with students. We provide notices to this effect, but it is helpful to kind of be proactive with them to check in and make sure that they, in fact, have been able to access the platform, because otherwise they won't be able to watch their classes. We also, through Class C365, we have the ability to offer a parallel learning management system if we have the need for it. And I'll explain that in just a second. So if you're a local operator, there are two different ways to offer dual credit. One way is to broadcast it publicly and to recruit students, not necessarily working through local schools or through organizations. However, that's not always the best way to go about it. One, because it may be difficult to support those students, to provide the adequate support to those students because they're more disconnected. But two, because the number of seats can be less predictable when we're recruiting from the broader community. And so when we're working with a local organization or a local school, it can be easier, as we mentioned earlier, how we're able to reserve a certain number of seats before we have to compete with the broader university student population. If we're working with local schools, schools oftentimes have a better sense of either the school itself intends to offer a dual credit course as part of its academic offering, or the school knows that, oh, we have these students who are primed and ready to go for a dual credit course. And so it can make administration of the dual credit a bit easier if you're working with local schools in your region. And so for that, we would want to begin to pursue a partnership agreement with a school or with a homeschool community if that's your situation. This partnership agreement would typically define course delivery options, program administration responsibilities and revenue shares, if that's the case, and then also a student billing option. And sometimes if the school or if the local partner wants to offer a specific course or courses, it can be helpful to specify that within the partnership agreement, at least for the first term. It doesn't mean that they're going to offer that course forever, but to say, our intent is to launch in the fall of 2021 with, these courses, something to that effect, just to provide, and it's a memorandum of understanding, and it's to provide clarity in the partnership relationship. So to touch on those broad categories within a partnership agreement, course delivery options can include anything from the school assuming on-campus instruction with their own local instructor, all the way over to just the pure online option where the university handles all of the instruction through their online platform, and the student simply has to access the university platform for that. So what are some of the differences? And there's a middle ground as well. So with on-campus instruction, the school must have a qualified professor. Usually that's at least a master's degree. Sometimes in the case of King's College, for example, it requires a PhD for most of their courses. So we have to have a qualified instructor that we have to get that instructor through the process, and that can sometimes take weeks or months. And so if a school intends or would like to do on-campus instruction, we advise them to start early in the process so that we can get that professor credentialed and then we can get the course approved. So it's a lengthier process. Once the professor gets approved, we also have to get the syllabus approved. So there's the option the professor can teach the university syllabus as it's already been designed by the respective department, or they can propose their own syllabus, or they can propose modifications to the university syllabus, but there's still an approval process for that. There's typically a stipend. So the professor is they're already on staff, they're on the faculty at the school, but they can receive an additional stipend on top of that for teaching this college level course. And then for this arrangement, we usually recommend that it's usually a dedicated section, so they're not teaching students from other schools or other regions unless the school has specifically said we're open to that possibility and it's online. But usually it's a dedicated section and it requires a minimum of 10 students. Now we can, depending on the course and depending on the university, that number can fluctuate slightly, but as a general rule, we try to keep it at a minimum of 10 students in that scenario. The middle ground for course delivery is online delivery with local support. So in this case, the university professor is doing the teaching. The local partner does not have to provide the instructor, but they may choose, we've seen this in certain cases, especially here in Brazil, they may choose to treat it as a class period within their school day and have a classroom monitor or a tutor available for students while they watch the online course together. So rather than watching the course at home or in some other time of the day, the school actually provides the meeting space and an academic support there for the students. And that's a really interesting model we think is a fit for schools, especially if the school doesn't have or doesn't want to go through the professor credentialing process and the syllabus approval process, but they still like the idea of students being on campus and going through this program together. And for that option, there's no enrollment minimum. You can have 1, 2, 3 students taking a course because we're plugging those students into an existing section at the university. And then similarly, with the purely online version, now the student is able to study when they want to. It could be either synchronous or asynchronous, meaning live instruction, or it can be recorded instruction. And they have maximum schedule flexibility. There's also no enrollment minimum. You can enroll students one by one in different courses, and there's no personnel required, no tutor, no professor, anything like that. So does that make sense? The course delivery options, what a local partner may choose?
Yes.
Yep, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are some of the requirements. In the case that a school wants to get one of their local professors credentialed with a partner university, LeTourneau University requires 18 credits of graduate study relevant to the course that's going to be taught. Typically, that means that they probably earned a master's degree. So that's why we usually go ahead and say that a master's degree is required. If you did 18 credits in physics, it's not likely that you stopped there, but in any case, most courses at King's, again, require a PhD. The applicants are going to have to submit official transcripts, which means requesting transcripts from their universities or from their institutions at which they studied. LeTourneau's process requires an application, which we can provide, and a faith statement. Both schools will actually require that professors adhere to, a broadly evangelical faith declaration of faith. But there's actually some faith questions that LeTourneau, kind of essay questions that LeTourneau requires. Both schools will require an interview with the professor and then a syllabus approval. And I'll just note that the professor can be someone who's already on staff at the school, or it can be someone that the school or the local partner recruits from the broader community, that they may know somebody who can teach physics. They may not already be on faculty. So it doesn't have to be someone who's already on staff. And also we do have the opportunity, we're developing the opportunity as the Christian Hall contracts its own professors. We're developing the opportunity for schools to have a local instructor working underneath one of our credentialed professors that's already gone through the approval process. All right, so the other important item to define in a partnership agreement is related to program administration. And again, there are 3 basic options. In all 3 options, the local partner would be primarily responsible for recruitment. And that's not usually a heavy load, because most of the time we're talking about schools, or we're talking about organizations that already have a significant amount of communication with their families. And so it's a matter of making them aware of the dual credit program and offerings, sometimes maybe having an information meeting, certainly making materials available and that kind of thing. But it's not like a marketing, a big marketing campaign that's trying to reach a broad region in most cases. Usually that's going to be the Christian Hall operator that's doing that kind of marketing. Admissions. So the admissions process, what I just showed you in 365, for example, just very briefly, could be run either through GDI, which is the company that owns the Christian Hall, or it could be run by the local partner. So in that case, we would give an account to the local partner, and we would allow them to do their document reviews and manage the admissions process with the oversight of one of our Christian Hall operators. And then registration processes, those are always done by GDI, by the Christian Halls, because we have to communicate to the university. We're responsible for communicating, actual student enrollments, and that has to do with our partnership agreements with them. Billing, that can come either from GDI, or it can come in one scenario, it can come from the local partner. So if a student enrolls in a LeTourneau course, and that's going to be $300, in most cases, GDI will do the direct billing for that. But sometimes, as we'll see here in a minute, sometimes the local partner will do the direct billing, and there's a different price arrangement or different financial arrangement between GDI and the local partner in that case. And then instruction, that can either be GDI's responsibility, which means that either we already have a contracted professor, or we contract the university's professor to teach that course, or it can be the school's responsibility, depending on what the school's preference is in getting a local professor credentialed. Now, these are the basic percentages that apply. This is net revenue, so this is after the university has been paid. If anybody ever questions, when a student pays tuition, the first entity that gets paid is the university and the professor, wherever the professor is coming from, whether it's from the university or from GDI or from the school. So they're the first to get paid. Whatever's left over gets split, and the local partner can get a percentage depending on how much of the program administration they take, and then the GDI Christian Hall operator can get a percentage as well. And so that's important to understand, that it's after paying the university that then the revenue share kicks into play. All right, so we saw there that there's the possibility for the partner to do the billing to the student, or for GDI to do the billing. how does that work? If the partner chooses to do the billing, and this is, sometimes a school will do this because they think it's either financially advantageous or because they think it's going to be simpler for their families, because the families are already paying tuition, they're already paying for programming at the school, and so they just tack on, an extra charge onto the bill that the family would normally get. In that case, we allow the local partner to set the price. Now, that may seem odd because we already have the published price, but in this case, we're assuming that the partner is assuming a larger administrative burden. They're probably doing the local, they might be doing the local instruction as well. And so we allow the partner to say, okay, we'll take LeTourneau, for example. This course is normally published and offered at $300, but the partner may want to offer that to their local student population for $350 or for $400 or what have you, because the school intends to add value to that offering. Well, that's fine. We allow that, or the school can say we're just going to charge the $300. Either way, GDI will only bill the school or the local partner for the published dual credit rate. So if that published rate is $300 for the course, GDI is going to bill the school for $300, regardless of what the school charged its student for that course. So the school keeps whatever is above and beyond that published course rate. In this case, there's no net revenue share because the partner's upcharge is intended to replace that, because the partner can set that freely. If they're not interested, we have this as well. If they're not interested in applying an upcharge, they're simply interested in facilitating the billing process for their families. They may just charge $300 for that course. GDI is going to bill the school for $300, and that's that. So that's how partner billing works. GDI billing works through 365, the platform that we just showed you a minute ago with the applications, where we will bill the published dual credit rates from the course table, and then depending on the partnership arrangement that was agreed on in the previous slide, then we will have the revenue share that comes out of that tuition that was billed, and the student would handle their tuition payments through our 365 platform, the same place where they do their applications and registrations and things like that. Okay. All right, we're getting here towards the end, and just wanted to mention that because the Christian Hall exists and it has the ability to offer graduate and undergraduate studies as well as vocational training and other types of programs, dual credit, we want our dual credit operators to understand that the Christian Hall is there as a solution, even for local partners. Local partners such as schools and churches and homeschool communities, etc. What can that look like? Well, it can involve engaging schools, churches, etc., helping them to achieve longer term impact, helping them to broaden their academic program options, enhance alumni engagement, strengthen internal staff and faculty, and increase their own financial sustainability. That could involve offering, in addition to dual credit, it could involve extending into like a 13th and 14th grade option, doing undergraduate certificates or associate's degrees. It could eventually include offering full bachelor's degrees, so that the local partner becomes a K through U institution. Or we have some partners that come to us and say, we want to enhance either our faculty or our staff through continuing education. We want to be able to offer graduate certificates, or we want to offer, academic administration training, or we want to offer teaching English as a second language certificates, things of that nature. So we get a variety of requests along those lines. Even if a school is only offering dual credit, it is common for us to see schools that want to offer something for their faculty and staff as well. Or we have a school, for example, here in Achibaya, where I'm currently located, that not only do they want to do the staff training, but they want to offer college degrees for students' parents, because they have parents involved that want to get master's degrees or that want to complete their bachelor's degrees and things like that. So as a local operator, be attentive to these possibilities, because they can really enhance the mission of a local organization or a local school if they're ready for it. Sometimes they're attracted to the dual credit offering, but they have their own vision for where they're going as an organization. And sometimes that coincides with what we can do through the Christian Hall. And so it's helpful to make them aware of that, because they may not even know what the Christian Hall is. They may have just heard about the dual credit program. So be sure to let them know about that. I will stop there, and we'll wrap up here with any final questions. Any comments? I know, Joyce, you wanted to have some comments about academic partners, and we'll just open it up for questions right now before we wrap up.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. So, and you can tell me that maybe this becomes a different, conversation at another time. So please feel free to kind of, say, hey, Joyce, that's a whole nother, animal. Let's move that to a later time or schedule a later time. Okay, so one is some of our, with the summer schedule coming up, and some of our students looking at that. And so some of the prerequisites.
So, we talked about connecting dual credit with the rest of, what the Christian Hall how the Christian Hall can serve local partners. And I just want to wrap up by mentioning that this training session is the start of the dual credit certification, but it's not the end through the Christian Hall. And so for those of you, for the local and regional operators in particular, you want to pay attention to this. To complete the certification, there is a webinar quiz based on today's presentation. And that's just to, kind of gauge how well you've captured some of the important details, because we want to make sure that you're equipped to communicate this information and to handle it accurately as you're engaging with constituents in your regions. And so you can email us at admin@gdiglobal.org to receive the access to the quiz once you've watched this webinar. For those of you who are participating today, I'll go ahead and send it to you. But for the purposes of those who may be watching the recording, you'll need to email us for that. And then also, this is something that you would have seen in the Christian Hall training series. You'll need to have completed your dual credit program plan and marketing plan. And this will be, you may recall that program plan document as well as the marketing plan worksheet. So we want to make sure that you have a plan for how you're going to implement this program. Either, whether that's you yourself or whether that's working with local partners like local schools and other organizations. And so we want to be able to review that and make sure that you're ready to go. Okay, so And then you should have a Class E 365 account. If you have gone through the Christian Hall training, most likely you already have one, but we want to make sure that you have one because you're going to need that in order to begin to manage students who come through your region. And then we also recommend, we're not requiring yet, but a HubSpot account, as we've seen also in the Christian Hall training series, to be able to manage contacts and communicate with the rest of the team. So once you have satisfied these requirements, then we will officially certify you for dual credit offerings, and to add that to your portfolio. All right. And then lastly, I'll just point out that we have, as we have mentioned previously, because the Christian Hall operates with a variety of types of programs, we have these specific trail guide certifications for different types of offerings. So this is the first such offering, the certification for dual credit called the Adventurer Certificate. And then we have vocational training, higher education, theology and ministry. And then we have our standard tutoring training and mentor trainings as well. And so most of those are for operators. The tutor and mentor trainings are also for Christian Hall members and associates who are serving students at the Christian Hall. And so just as a reminder that we will be issuing future certification trainings for those specific programs. So with that, thank you all for participating today, and I hope that this was helpful for you. I know it's a lot of information, and a lot of times information becomes solidified when you put it into use. And so maybe as you work on your program plans, that can be one way to do that. And then we'll be, of course, working with you on communicating about the dual credit offerings very shortly. So I appreciate your attention today and your questions and comments.
Aaron, do you have recorded courses for those certifications?
Not yet. This is the first. This is the first recording of a certification training that we're doing, aside from the core Christian Hall training series. And so we'll be developing those over the next couple of months.
Thanks.
I have a question about that too, because I was kind of just jumping on to understand more about Christian Hall and dual credit. Although I have been, I have a meeting kind of set up with Chris to learn more about Christian Hall and how to kind of plug in more. But so if just for my understanding, so I'm a high school principal, and like I said, admin's kind of changing up at our school, but I do the guidance counseling. If a school is offering dual credit in partnership with Christian Hall, do they need to have this certificate training?
Not necessarily. I think it can be helpful to have a solid grasp of how it works through the Christian Hall. Typically, the local operator, once we have a certified local operator, they would probably be able to communicate, the relevant points to a school administrator. But in a case like with Lighthouse, for example, you may have a robust vision for how dual credit can serve your community, and so it certainly is helpful. It's not required. We don't require. Unless you're going to be an operator and run your own admissions processes, then we would probably want to do the certification. Go ahead and do that, and then we would also, as a complement to that, we would probably go ahead and schedule a separate Class E 365 training for you, which would be about an hour long to orient you to the system and specifically to be able to learn how to manage the admissions process through that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. All right. Any final comments or questions before we wrap?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good,
Okay.
thanks.
Well, thank y'all. Have a great day, and God bless you.
Thank you. See you.